Anime has a massive variety of good shows, ones I'd recommend happily for various reasons. Whether it be it's a great thriller with interesting characters, guilty pleasure anime I think more people should pick up, my controversial pick for anime that will get people into the medium, or simply one I just need more people to talk with about. This series so far has been about genuinely well received anime that a large variety of people have enjoyed. I'm about to change that. This is why I think you should consider watching School Days. I suppose some of you may already have figured out that I might attempt to link this to my taste for trash anime. It's pretty much my brand at this point, and it allows me to put an info box in the corner recommending my other content to watch. However, this time I'm actually going to defend this anime, quite possibly with my life. I enjoy plenty of trash anime and manga, domestic girlfriend. However, School Days, despite everyone else telling me otherwise, is not one of those. If you have heard anything about School Days and haven't seen it yet, please do me a favour, click off, destroy my viewer retention rate for all I care, and go watch it. And similarly, if you're willing to take a complete blind leap of faith because a British guy wrote a video essay, please also do so, and maybe even come back and tell me what you thought. For anyone that doesn't mind minor spoilers of themes and some footage, let's just dive in. School Days is most famous for its very divisive nature in the anime sphere. It's definitely not one people are all too familiar with these days. Only being a year deep into anime myself, it took me a while to hear about the infamy of this show. Whilst I'd be tempted to say there's a general consensus that it's downright terrible, and believe me, people do say so, the Mal stats suggest a different story. And despite how untrustworthy Mal users can be, this is the narrative I'll be pushing through with, looking at what makes this kind of divisive scoring happen, and attempting to coerce you into perhaps trying it for yourself, or re-evaluating some of your thoughts. School Days is a harem. Wait, no. Drama, psychological commentary. Cautionary tale, trash fire, masterpiece, it doesn't matter. But I suppose a cautionary harem, drama, psychological trash masterpiece doesn't really come around too often. School Days follows perhaps the worst main character in anime manga history, Makoto Ito, a bold accusation that I don't make lightly. What makes him so unlikable? Well, he's a dickhead, quite simply. Now, people hate main characters for various reasons. Kirito is hated by many for being an overpowered generic god. Shu from Guilty Crown is Shu from Guilty Crown. Zenitsu is the most annoying character in anything I've ever seen. Hell, we'll extend the range and say the main girl from Twilight, but let's be honest, even the minority who enjoyed those films probably hated her as well. Makoto has single-handedly usurped all of these people from it. Not because he's boring or annoying, but because it's impossible to be so socially unaware and aware that you manipulate everyone around you into a spiralling degeneration of who they were, whilst maintaining the dumbass persona that makes you hate him even more. Makoto is so boring that perhaps the only thing he's remembered for is being one of the worst characters in anime and having some strange connection to boats. Okay, there we go. There's the generic part that everyone agrees with out of the way. I enjoyed pretty much every second he was on screen. No, guys, I'm sorry, you didn't give me a chance to explain. Don't you think being humdrum and quartered for just an anime character is a bit too much? Please, I've not uploaded in 3 weeks. They haven't even been told to subscribe yet. How am I going to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year? Okay, so yes, I like that I despise Makoto so much. His actions are despicable, he causes needless melodrama, he's an irredeemable insert expletive of choice here, but that's what made the anime so damn engaging to me. I hated everything he did, and I mean absolutely everything. There wasn't a moment, no matter how much the author attempted to try and redeem him, and my friend saying he sort of felt bad, that could even remotely sway me, and that's what I loved about him. I think there's something about anime characters that people despise somehow becoming interchangeable with them being bad. Gabby from Attack on Titan is an example I'm sure most of you are familiar with. After she killed a fan favourite, people immediately began the hate train. It's very easy to get swept up in that and confuse a character between being written to be hated and just simply being bad. Now, this isn't enough for some people, which I get, however this is something that applies to the entire cast of School Days. I came out of School Days without a favourite character. Every single one of these people are completely and utterly one-dimensional, hateable. When talking about the cast of School Days, it's hard to talk about them individually, and rather I feel the need to tackle them as a collective of similarly messed up people with all too prevalent personal issues. Whether School Days is a more grounded and realistic cautionary tale of how exactly messed up the genre would be, with a little realism and melodrama taken to the extreme thrown in, that makes you hate its clever cast of characters, or simply just a trash show with trash characters, it's definitely up to the viewer. I rated these characters based purely on how much I hated them, and the one that came out the least was a 7 out of 10. School Days was refreshing to me through its cast. For all too long I see people ranking characters primarily on how likeable they are. It's why characters like Luffy always score so highly in people's estimations. This anime completely upheaved that, and brought a genuinely compelling experience of going back and forth on who I should blame for the awful events that were ensuing. I could make a whole video on every character, and whether that's a testament to how great or awful they are will once again be up to you. School Days' ending is perhaps one of its most famous aspects. I don't go into it just because I don't want to spoil you on anything but the bare minimum in this anime, which is why this episode might be a bit more vague than my usual ones. However, there are people who think this ending is genius, and there are people who hate it. The final impression of a show causes one of its biggest impacts on us whether we like it or not. Monogatari is perhaps my biggest example for recency bias, but that's a topic for some time soon. I don't fall into either camp to be honest, but I do think the ending is perhaps one of the weirdest and most incredible Christmas episodes, and once you learn the context from exactly what this anime was adapted from, it becomes even better. Now, this is what some people would consider a spoiler, so I've said basically everything but my closing statement. So if you want to go into School Days knowing the bare minimum, please do so. This anime adapts a bad ending, something that few anime that come from visual novels ever do. People are a fan of happy endings, or of endings where they're left satisfied. It's why Darling in the Franxx has a universally hated ending, and why Death Note's is so poignant. School Days does neither. It's bleak, it's abrupt, and most importantly at the end of it, it left me feeling empty. One of the main points of contention of this anime is whether it's a breakdown of the harem genre, and whilst I believe it is, I don't necessarily think that automatically makes it good. School Days for me was enjoyable not because of solely the destination, but for the fact it could consistently make me feel something. Whether that was hate for the most intolerable man ever written, sadness and sympathy for those I knew were irredeemable, or simply entertaining at the melodrama that broke away from realism. I always felt something while watching School Days, which is more than I can say for anime I just consider great. I have no objective score or thesis to sum it up really, merely the experience that I had finishing it at about 1 in the morning with a friend and proceeding to not be able to put even a single thought into words. School Days is a show that I don't think should even just be famously divisive within anime, but media as a whole. This embodies some of the outside stereotypes that people have with anime and makes them so grossly uncomfortable even to someone familiar with them, and delivers a conclusion and story that doesn't just strike me as an anime fan, but as a fan of media in general. I made this video for 3 reasons. 1, I want more people who are just getting into anime to have what I would now consider a quintessential experience in the medium, and formulate whether they love or hate it. 2, because this was the only way to truly deliver my thoughts on such a unique experience I had. And 3, because I desperately needed a Christmas episode and this was kind of the best I could come up with. I don't think School Days is a genius artistic masterpiece. Part of me does, and the other part of me agrees that it's trashy, melodramatic hogwash. Nevertheless, it was an experience that I will remember, I know that for sure. But I still think it might need a champion to defend its long-lost honour. I loved watching School Days, and whilst I think a lot of you might not, maybe there's one person watching this video that can, and that's why you should consider watching School Days.
Kokoroが騒いで熱くなる